And Claudia.
Good evening.
We are here today to remember an era just ended in the 1950s. Yes! We got it!
Well, Bree, let's start remembering one of the most feared events of the 1950s, the McCarthy witch hunts, where innocent people everywhere were accused of being a communist or supporting communism. In fact, I remember my grandpa telling me like a couple weeks ago that like 10 years ago, he was being accused of being a communist. He said that everyone was like so paranoid and like didn't know who to trust because everyone was accusing each other of being communist. He said that he would walk down the street and people would just like stare and like it was just crazy. So like everyone would just stare at each other and like they would like not trust in you. Everything you did, they would report to the government because it was either like, oh, if you're not like supporting the government and helping fight the spies, you were a communist.
Well. Damn.
After Joseph McCarthy's intro of the Red Scare, tensions began to increase between people and they were politically paranoid.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Joseph McCarthy. I am here to speak to you today about the enemies within our own society, communists. Today, we are engaged in a final all-out battle between communistic atheism and Christianity. Let there be doubt, the time has been chosen. Let us go to the leader of the communists. Today, Joseph Stalin, this is what he said. To think that all communistic revolution can be carried out in peace within the framework of a Christian democracy. Be careful with who you trust. Any un-American action is to be reported right away. Without any doubt, we, Americans, will catch all those within our society who are secret spies of the communists. This is the start of a new era, the Red Scare.
Citizens were forced to attend court trials where they were accused for being communists even if they weren't.
Most times, there was no evidence presented in court, and the judge feared of being accused as a communist. Therefore, he forcibly took the person in trial and made them guilty.
Yeah.
Okay. The court welcomes Brianna Van and Claudia Roca today. We all gather here today to see if Brianna is guilty or not guilty. Claudia Roca has accused her of being a communist. Claudia, on what grounds do you stand for accusing Brianna Van as a communist?
Un-American activities.
I am innocent!
Those un-American activities include?
Cutting her grass.
Ma'am, according to your city regulations, your grass must not surpass 3 inches above ground. What is your excuse for not having cutting your grass and complying with the laws given for you?
I have 5 kids and I cannot afford to water my grass anymore.
Ma'am, watering your grass is not the issue. The issue is cutting your grass and letting it get out of control.
My husband has left me with the kids. I cannot.
How many kids do you have then?
6.
Why can one of your kids not cut your grass?
They're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're too little.
Well, ma'am, it looks like it's time for you to start getting out there and cutting your grass if you do not want to be charged with being defiant with the court.
There's no law that says I have to cut my grass on a normal basis.
I am the judge and I am the government. Therefore, I set the laws.
Communist.
I hereby declare Brianna Van a communist and guilty. And I sentence her to 5 years in prison. Thank you all for joining us today. Take her away. Get up, man.
Bye, Ashley. Bye, Sal.
Sal. began not trusting each other and they had the feeling that they were being followed. After a while, political paranoia reached its maximum potential. This meant people began turning on each other and turning each other in to avoid being taken to court. Families were turning in other neighbors, and it was just an all-around mess.
Okay, that's good.
Have you guys seen any un-American activities lately?
Actually,
Hey guys. What's going on?
Alex, that's not all that happened in the 50s. There are also positive events, such as Elvis Presley, the invention of the TV.
Walking through a party in the county jail. The prison band was there and they began.
The consequence of this event had rock and roll music attached on all fronts. With records being banned and smashed, radio DJs were ordered to play certain songs and rock singers, especially Elvis, especially singers like Elvis were condemned, all because there was so-called devil's music. It was threatening to the status quo. The older generations were worried about juvenile delinquency. Teenagers started their own cultural and social category among American culture. Eager to exercise their freedom and values, they would test the boundaries of sexuality and consumerism. The explosive economy of 1950s gave way for the teenagers of the 1950s to start a new generation. Teenagers began to disregard authority and challenge the social environment.
Another major event of the 1950s was the Korean War. The Korean War was fought between South Korea and Communist North Korea. It was the first major conflict of the Cold War, as the Soviet Union supported North Korea and the United States supported South Korea. The war ended with little resolution. The countries are still divided today, and North Korea is still ruled by a communist regime. The Korean War began June 25th of 1950 and ended on July 27th of 1953. The leaders and the Prime Minister of North Korea was Kim Il-sung. North Korean's chief commander was Choi Young-kun. On June 25, 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea by trespassing the 38th parallel. The South Korean army fled and forces from the United States came to help out. The United States provided the majority of the United Nations forces. Soon the South Korean government only occupied a small part of Korean on the southern tip. At first, the United Nations was only trying to defend South Korea. However, after the first summer of fighting, President Truman decided to go on the offensive. He said the war was now about liberating North Korea from communism.
Baby boomers are the demographic group during the 1943 and 1964 post-World War II. Baby boomers are associated with the rejection or redefinition of traditional values. Many commuters, however, have disputed the extent of the rejection, noting the worldwide spread content ruling of values with older and younger generations. This means that most people during these years were having many children despite the growth chart presented here.
in America, the 1950s was a time of unprecedented prosperity and anxiety. The Russians had exploded a hydrogen bomb, touching off a nerve-wracking arms race. As the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union escalated, fear of the bomb and anxiety over the possibility of a nuclear war drove many Americans to dig deep into earth in an effort to survive what seemed as the inevitable nuclear attack from our enemies. Ordinary Americans built bomb shelters in their backyards in fear that after a nuclear attack, they would be invaded by an army of friends and neighbors who neglected to build bunkers of their own. Even public buildings with deep basements lined with thick underground concrete were designated as shelters in case of an attack by the Soviet Union. Overall, bomb shelters were extremely important in the 1950s.
Welcome to the 6 o'clock Mr. Norris News, and we are here with Joseph McCarthy and the two accused witnesses.
Meaning people began to turn on each other. Neighbors were turning in. Oh my god!
It's Ernie, I'm sorry.
Action.
Hi, I am Brianna. Oh my god. Why do I stop? Baby boomers are the demographic group
And supporting communists, like being.
Oh my god! What is so hard about that part, Kenny?
It's because I didn't know what the symbol meant.
It's an ad. The invention of the TV.
The TV with the colored one or the black and white one?
Commander was Choi Young Kun.